to the expectation we had, and now we are going in for the long haul. Okay. You remember we were told 48 hours, which have elapsed, but now he is saying we could even go up to Monday.
Well, now the general trend, the word that is coming up, everybody is saying Maimuna, my worry is, in the work you've done as a advocate for gender, the spaces you've been fighting for, now, those conversations may slip through the cracks. Right now, with all this noise about the actual release of figures, the spaces that you've been fighting for, nobody's talking about them now. They come as an afterthought or an aside to say, are the women making an impact now? The groups which needed a little more space, are they getting it now? So are you worried that you're going to be swallowed by the noise that Isaac is dealing with, his day of reckoning?
Louis, that's a very interesting question, because we are now discussing the presidential elections. So the whole idea of, we are assured of the 47 anyway. They've already been voted in, whatever the case. The 47 are assured. So that discussion is not as serious as the presidential, although we should have been discussing about our counties right now, rather than being more concerned with the presidential numbers. But I'd like to discuss what you've asked the others about, where have we come so far. And based on the experience of 2007, you will see that this hype started with the campaigns. So it built up to the day of March 4th. And now we are seeing what has happened in that period of time. Kenyans have a tendency to want to get results very fast. We already knew that we have an electronic register. It's not as big. I've been in Bangladesh observing elections with a register of 80 million. This is just 14 million. So, and we have 7 days, as Akure said, where we can give IBC time to rectify what has happened. And I'm glad Ahmed came out very clearly to clarify that this is the problem. We are changing the process from electronic to manual. That is very clear. So Kenyans need to relax and let the votes to be counted so that we can proceed. I mean, almost everybody is exhausted and tired. Some of us are going back to school. We've missed a whole week of school. Kids have missed a whole week of school. The anxiety is very high. Well, we made choices that cannot be changed now. Then we have to live with it in the next 5 years.
So some conversations will have to be on hold.
Absolutely.
Akura, you've been in a space where there's anxiety, there's clamor for doing your job on time. You were on the spot, and you sort of get this feeling that your compatriot on the other side, he's getting the heat now because of promises. Why, as a country, do we get to that place where we give these promises we cannot deliver? I can ask you this because you sat on that chair when you were being challenged on when, why not now? How do we avoid this false promise scenario?
Okay, I think for me it boils down to the whole question of preparedness and the systems you put in place, and the extent to which you really follow the execution of those systems and deliveries, the time frame. I think for me, yes, like I said, I'm happy that Ahmed Isaac has finally come to say that, you know, what electronic system is failed us. But also the question, like I say, though it's a post-mortem question, is why did it fail? Well, what was the level of preparedness? What was, because we had been promised. Remember, by the way, we've spent now close to, I think I'm told, between 9 and 20 billion in all this process.
And counting.
Yes, it's a lot of money, and for us, it's huge for the country. So I know when we were doing the constitution making process, the timelines were in the act, and therefore we really worked in accordance with those timelines. I think for me, there is a level of laxity that you see in the institutions today. People sometimes just sit back and just relax. You know, Kenya is in the cusp of renewal. We are actually transforming too fast. But I don't think a lot of people have also internalized the kind of change, the shift that has taken place in this country since 27th of August 2010. A lot of people have not.
Did you not find it interesting, Jeremy, that every other second day, there was always a challenge on readiness. There was always a defense that we are ready, IBC says we're ready. Whoever is challenging would say, no, you're not ready. Was this an anticipation? I just need to understand, what can we fix in the interim? Now that the things that are happening are causing a bit of confusion, what would you fix in the interim?
You know, first, Louis, I think it's an indictment, if you ask me, on the part of the ICC in terms of preparedness. As you pointed out, they kept on assuring us that they were prepared, they were ready to go, and hence raising the expectations, as Bishop has just mentioned. And that expectation has basically hit the crescendo, you know, almost 24 hours after, of course, the election results began coming in, only for the public to basically be taken aback when the results began stalling along the way on the monitor. As you may have realized yesterday, we had the same results for almost 10 hours on the monitor. And so folks, having watched telly throughout the day, you could feel, you know, the public anxiety was beginning to basically build a groundswell. But, you know, Louis, I thought that the reason why we basically adopted technology was basically to have it as a silver bullet, you know, and an antidote to our electoral maladies. You know, if you may want to recall the defunct Electoral Commission, one of the key recommendations that Kriegler gave was that we need to have an electronic system to basically assuage public fears in terms of tallying of figures and all that.
And it's not getting there now.
So yeah, so we really, I think we're disappointed because we've committed a lot of resources in terms of technological infrastructure.
And now we are begging for patience, Bishop. And we had an event which some people are now describing had the hype of a concert. You know, this event was hyped with the level of advertising that was going to be a one-day, and the next day we will have this done. Even if we are begging for patience now, how do we keep the patience but keep the institution on check, because they have to deliver? But Kenyans are at a place where we're saying nothing can happen. We can't even walk out of the door tomorrow. Some of it is extreme, of course. We need to understand your life will go on. How do we check that patience? We do not want to descend to violence.
Yeah, I think that the critical thing in an election like this is trust. Do you trust the institution? Do you trust the people who are involved? As long as people can sense and believe that the people who are managing the process and the system that is in place will deliver the right results. Even if you have to wait for a month, people will relax.
Bishop.
No, I'm telling you. But where there is no trust.
Okay, IBC had a huge amount of capital in the bank for trust.
But
what do you think? Are they overdrawn now? Do they still have some in their account?
There's a meltdown of trust, actually.
It's drawn out?
It has been drawn out because of the actions of the people involved. Because at some point there was no information coming. And when there is no information coming, you leave people in a point of speculation. Communication in this kind of a situation is very important, so that you keep updating people, letting people know this is what is happening, this is where we are, these are the challenges we are facing, this is how we are addressing them, this is what we hope to get.
Can we still trust them?
I think we can, especially given the fact that the chairman came out very clearly and changed the tone, saying that we do have a problem and this is the situation. I think we can comfortably say yes, we can trust, and I think I trust him. However, one of the issues that we need to deal with is the politicians. If you have seen that they've already started complaining, creating some sort of anxiety. Now, if they have an issue, they can comfortably go to IEBC and complain, and let the public know that we've made our complaint official, let's wait for the results. Now, having quite a number of those figures coming out is similar to 2007, when you start hearing people saying, well, we hear diplomats have done this and that. The Mwananchi down there may not know the whole truth, but they start getting anxiety. So I think there's a need for the politicians. They've played their role. They've come out and said, we are the best, vote for us. Stay put and follow the law. We don't need anybody coming out and saying somebody somewhere is tampering something. Not all of us are sober enough to understand this is a continuous of the game.
Yes, sir.
I was just going to say that I think one of the things that we can really avoid in the interim is a repeat of the kind of terminology we had in 2007. I really shuddered yesterday when I heard Ahmed Isaac say that I cannot reach half of my returning officers. It reminded me of the late Kivuitu, the good Lord rest his soul in peace.
Yes.
That, you know, he said that I could not reach my returning officer. I think if we can avoid...
It was a deja vu moment.
Yes, exactly. It was a deja vu. And for me, if we can avoid that kind of language and repeat, for me, it be, I mean, I think we will be assured. But I think what is also most important is really a crystal clear explanation on what went wrong, so that Kenyans can understand and comfortably say, okay, this is what went wrong. We can't blame these people. They have got a backup system. I think accountability, at the very least, on what went wrong is very important. Even as we say we have 7 days,
right, that
will assure us at least that, you know, everything is okay. But the other important angle, I mean, Louis, I know people are concentrating more on the presidential vote. Remember, the senators' positions are also constitutional.
But
the governors, members of parliament, I mean, the women representatives, you know, they are simply
going to talk about the women.
No. But Louis, the controversy has trickled down from the ward level up to the national level.
No, it is important.
No, I'm just thinking, yes, lest we forget that all these other positions are also constitutional. So let's not just bank everything on the presidential, because you see, you could set on the presidential and then have havoc within the governor, the senators, and the MP.
Well, Kenyans have enjoyed or not enjoyed a presidency. You can't blame them for fighting for that which they know. The county concept is still new, so they're not going to fight for that now. It's still new. We have to walk into it tomorrow, get an education for it, get a sense of it, and that is probably why we have that concentration on that which we are familiar with.
No, but you see, I think
but I think also, to answer Kuru, I think the Electoral Commission had pointed out that the first votes actually to be counted would be that of the
So again, they set themselves up for that.
So the public actually would expect sequentially that the presidential vote should come first, and then of course as you go down the pecking order. But you know, he is one of the framers of this constitution. I should have thought. Yes, I should have thought. They should have staggered. We need to pillory him. They should have staggered perhaps the voting, the elective positions in terms of voting. We should have perhaps have had the presidency, and then come to other positions, so that, you know, as it is now, all this farrago, if I may call it, of elective positions actually has been very heavy on the public. I even saw a presidential candidate literally having it difficult.
Almost calling
yeah. So he literally had to read the ballot box, and then he would read the next. So all this.
Okay, Kuro, now that we're going to pillory you for a while, how is it possible that this commission did not anticipate the valid question that came up? In fact, it's Mugambi Kiai who called me early in the morning and said, we're going to have a challenge with castes and valid, and quoting the Constitution and Article 4138, and that was it was a moment of anxiety. How could that not have been anticipated, Ekuru?
No, I think for me it's all about really, first of all, I voted back in Turkana, and I think there is really no problem with the ballots. I think you take just a little bit longer. For me, it's a question of civic education. The boxes were properly marked. The coloration was also properly marked. So really, I don't think that's the problem. I think for me, the question really is about whether there was civic education that went into training people. Because I had to assist somebody in my village, in Turkana, who did not know how to vote. And I just asked myself, I thought we've been hyping a lot about civic education.
So in one word for you, there was not enough.
Pardon me?
In one word, there was not enough civic education that went out.
No. I don't even think they reached anywhere else in the country. And I think for me, it's a question of whether we really take the timelines seriously. I still go back to the question whether a lot of people have understood the shift that has taken place in this country. This country has been disordered, been organized in a certain way. Not everybody, understood that. And I think for me, the question right now is on the what we call the state organs or the constitutional office holders to actually ensure that.
Okay, let me cut you short. Let's dash to. We have a press briefing at Bomas of Kenya. Let's have a look and see what's happening there.
93, Musalia Mudavadi, 592, Paul Kibugi, 57, Peter Kenneth, 180, Raila Odinga, 13,231. Uhuru Kenyatta, 15,948. Total votes cast, 30,796. Total rejected votes, 307. Valid votes, 30,489. Registered voters, 36,619. Uriri constituency number 257 in Migori County. James Kiapi, 47. Mata Karua, 38. Muhammad Abduba, 27. Musalia Mudavadi, 2,669. Paul Kibugi, 19. Peter Kenneth, 54. Raila Odinga, 32,438. Uhuru Kenyatta, 162. Total vote cast, 35,677. Total rejected votes, 223. Valid votes, 35,454. Registered voters, 38,164. Kisumu West constituency number 239 in Kisumu County. James Kiapi, 56. Mata Karua, 37. Muhammad Abduba, 14. Musalia Mudavadi, 765. Paul Kibugi, 20. Peter Kenneth, 75. Come and show me this. Raila Odinga, what is this? This one?
Yeah. Here.
Sorry, I'm getting back to that. Raila Odinga, 43,613. Uhuru Kenyatta, 455. Total votes cast, 45,442. Total rejected votes, 407. Valid votes, 45,035. Registered voters, 50,035. Thank you.
The final results for Kigumo constituency number 107. James Kiapi, 110. Martha Karua, 155. Mohamed Dida, 42. Paul Muite, 22. Peter Kenneth, 115. Raila Odinga, 502. Uhuru Kenyatta, 56,048. Total votes cast, 57,394. Total rejected votes, 314. Valid votes, 57,080. Registered voters, 61,170. Thank you. We are coming back with more results.
Welcome back. Well, it wasn't exactly a press briefing, just an update, results coming in, and I suppose that will be the trend. We're going to have to suffer that for quite a while, all through the night. In effect, the chairman has actually taken full refuge in the Constitution, in the law, and you have to brace until Monday. Let's talk about that some more. Sorry, I cut you off, Ekuro. Where were you? As we were saying, you're the closest target to these things that we're dealing with now. Yeah. And you could explain to me, for example, why we didn't anticipate that you'll be challenged on votes cast and valid votes, and how does that affect the whole idea of participation?
You know, this question of votes cast is actually basically what, you know, as the language says, the votes that are cast on that particular day, whether spoiled or otherwise. Those are votes cast. So I mean, like he said, I think in the morning in your show here, every vote counts. It's important. This is representative democracy. So you cannot say other votes are less than others. So I think for me, like I said earlier, it's important that we don't go necessarily technical on this issue of votes. You see, I think we're easy to disqualify votes just because maybe somebody has marked outside the box. It's not necessary. I mean, that's really technical. But then if you look at the spirit and the language of the Constitution in Article 159, for example, we don't, because this is centrally a human rights issue, it's a justice issue. To participate in an election is a human rights issue.
So help it to the extent it's not really extremely...
It's important to understand the intention of the voter on that particular day. And this is an administrative issue, you know. So I think the Constitution has given us the framework. Right now what we should be doing is to implement that Constitution and to try and interpret it. You know, people say, what was in the framers, what was in the mind of the framers of the Constitution, or what was the intention of the people of Kenya by giving themselves this Constitution? We must have a purposive interpretation of this Constitution. Let's be positive about it. Let's not, you cannot give the negativity to any vote that has been cast.
So you're saying that they're being way too harsh in terms of some of the mistakes which they could just...
I think for me, if it is administrative, you must give it a purposive interpretation. What was the purpose? What was the intent of the voter when they cast this ballot? Remember, a lot of our people really do not even know how to vote. Like
well, at least we don't have the extreme where, I don't know if you picked it up, there was one that was highlighted that this fellow was so animated, put X on everybody he didn't like and put a loud tick on the person he liked, and his job was done. But we're not saying that we want those admissible, those kinds of things. But you say something very interesting, the lesser votes. This concept of democracy, we still have a lot of argument in this country where we're saying, if I voted for Bishop and he wasn't going to win, that's a wasted vote. And that is causing part of the anxiety now, because we're saying a vote that did not go to the winning candidate was a wasted vote. How do we get to this? How do we help this?
Yeah, I think it is very important for us to understand that
vote democracy that only works for the winner.
Vote casting is a way of making decision. It's an objective way of making a choice in a set of circumstances that are difficult, because all of us have our preferred choices. And your choice may not be my choice. How do we arrive at, because only one person can be the driver of this country, how do we arrive at that person? So we cast our lots. And in casting our lots, we are saying we are in a kind of agreement with you that whichever lot then goes through will be the person that we agree to lead both of us. So it is not my way or no way. It is whichever way comes works for both of us.
Why are we saying democracy is for the winner? We lose in sports, we lose in all other events. We cheer the people who came in second because we understand not everybody is a winner. But when it comes to voting, if I'm second, it's not democratic.
Actually, that's not true. Democracy is about majority, but democracy is not about suppression of minority. And that's where the concept of democratic representation comes. So every vote counts. So if I win, because it's a fair competitiveness, then it means that whatever, I am a leader. Today, whoever wins tomorrow is the President of the Republic of Kenya. He cannot be the President of Region X or Tribe X. So I think that's wrong. And I think what Kenyans, of course, need to consider moving forward is that I hope in the near future we will reduce our politics into issue-based politics, so that I'm Turkana or you're Jaluo or you're Kikuyu, it won't really matter. We want to see the kind of guy, the kind of person who becomes our president, who resonates with what I want, who will do the right thing.
Ekuru,
I think what we have seen...
You didn't matter to me until you had oil. Then now, Ekuru, you're now important to me as a You're not just a random Turkana.
You see, that's the pretense.
But that's the problem we have in this country. We want to attach a value for association. Why should I associate with you? And that is what this is a build-up, and we've got to this level. And I would like to discuss...
Louis, back to that question before Magut comes in. If today you say that I matter to you because we've discovered oil in Turkana, when all these years that you guys described us as the least developed, the least, doesn't matter. These days, I think almost the lingua franca in Kenya's economic terms is Turkana oil discovery, okay? But the truth be told, I think every part of this country and everybody in this country matters. And in the context of this electioneering process, every vote you cast, because you're exercising a constitutional democratic right. And nobody should vilify you because I have voted for X, Y. You see, if we go by numbers, where will the rest of us be? I mean,
and that's just how far back we are in terms of civic education. That is what I wanted to illustrate. You're saying something on that?
Yeah, if I may interpose, Louis, I think we come from a history where, you know, the political leadership in this country has been, you know, about life and death. If you think about the presidency, for instance, if you became the president, it basically meant that your community, your cronies, would basically have a fair share of the cake, and the rest, yes, yes,
and fair share,
yeah, which is fairer as well. I think we're still stuck in that notion that if one of us becomes a president, then of course he's going to be deploying what we would call in political science pork barrel policies. In that sense, he would basically divert state resources to where you are in terms of roads or whichever projects, as well as also in terms of appointments. You know, you would recall those days when, you know, when Moi was in power, you obviously knew who basically occupied key positions. When Kibaki came into office, you'd almost basically one community would occupy one key positions. If you look at security, for instance, now, and treasury, you know, I mean, it's shameful that, you know, that in this age and time that we still practice that kind of, you know, backward politics. And so I think we're still stuck in that you know, mode of politics, and we have not basically reconciled with the new constitutional ecology, where of course we're devolving resources, and that of course meritocracy is going to be counting now, as well as the fact that the legislature is going to be playing a key role in terms of approving appointments. And so the president is not going to be waking up one morning and of course calls a Kuru here and tells him, I want to make you my permanent secretary or an ambassador. Yeah. So I think we have to, I think slowly and methodically, we perhaps could be changing over time when we realize that resources, of course, are going to be devolved. And so it may reach a point where we may not even know who is in power. I was talking to one of my students. She's an exchange student. She's from Japan. And I was asking her, who is your prime minister? She tells me she doesn't even know the prime minister. And when I did ask her why, she told me, you know, systems are working. So we don't really know. We don't really bother to know who is in power at a given period of time.
You know, I'm seeing signs that we are moving away from being tribal-driven in these decisions.
Unfortunately not, Louis. And that's the reason why we have high anxiety in the country, because we have devolved, yes, the systems. We have a new constitution. However, look at the patterns, the voting patterns. I can comfortably say maybe Coast Province is only one region that actually has voted with an issue, because land issues is the most important issue, and the group that addressed that issue got the most votes. And to give credit to some of those movements that are disbanded, that raised the issue of land in the Coast Province, that it became sort of a national issue, and Coast was able to move in that direction. We have quite a number of tribes in Coast religions, but we seem to have actually focused on that one big issue, and that is land, and we voted that way. But the rest of the country has comfortably gone back to their tribal cocoons. You can see in certain regions not a single other party was voted in because it's one of our own, and that is a bit dangerous. I don't see how. Maybe it will take us another decade or so before we can actually devolve in our minds, because right now the most important person would be my governor of Mombasa and not the president of the Republic of Kenya.
But that's because you understand the detail of that.
But that's what Kenya needs to be moving towards, because after what Kenaikuru and CKIC has done, we went around the country saying, tunataka serikali ije karibu. So the serikali has come closer. We are still stuck to the national level where we want to see our brother, our tribe. I mean, they are not the most important person right now. I'm more concerned who's going to become the governor of Mombasa and the person who's going to drive Mombasa County to the next level, not who's going to be sitting at State House right now.
But then we all go to Bishop on Sunday and we all raise hands and pray and worship. And then Monday after that, we all go back and find out who is the guy in our tribe who's closest to the presidency?
And that's the biggest lie in Kenya. We pray a lot, and then we do the wrong things.
Bishop, I think that's your cue.
Bishop,
That's your cue, Bishop.
They're not doing some good job.
If we are being honest with God.
You know, Jesus said
Here we go.
that the human heart is deceitful above all things. That's why you find that he didn't even entrust himself to the crowds that milled around him. His disciples were very impressed by the crowds that came. But he did not, because he recognized that the human heart, the same people who are saying, Hosanna, Hosanna, at one occasion, they're the same ones who turned around, crucify him, only a few days later. So the human tendency is to go for the convenient, what is actually selfish, what will benefit me. You heard even during elections, people are using babies to jump the queues.
That was just really horrible.
It shows you the level of selfishness that we as human beings have. So it goes down to who can benefit me the most. Is my brother, my neighbor, this person who comes from my region. So I don't care about what will benefit the nation, but rather that I can say that I know the president, he comes from just a few homes away from mine.
That's the comfort.
That's the comfort. But if we recognize, like has been mentioned, that actually things have changed and that it will no longer matter who is sitting at State House. Look at President Kibaki's leadership since the new constitution. I mean, it's a frustrating experience where he makes decisions and some few people can sit and say, no, that decision you made was not right, it was not constitutional, and he is forced to take back. I mean, you never imagine that that could happen in the previous government, right, where the president's decisions are reversed. So in fact, for me, I feel like the next president is going to be a very frustrated person. You have promised all these friends of yours that you are going to give them jobs, and then you realize that actually you can't give any of them because it is not going to be possible.
Probably the campaign we should have stepped up would have been that one.
I don't think the president should be frustrated. I mean, if you do the right things for the country.
No, I mean, if you are operating in the old system, you will be a very frustrated person because the promises, some of the promises are being made. I mean, some were made even public. That we can refer to, where somebody is being told, you step down.
Ekuru,
we are going to give you a job later.
Ekuru,
when you know.
Let me ask you directly, Ekuru.
Yeah.
So you're saying you have a great understanding of the fact that there's a lot of education to be done there to get into the new disposition.
Yeah.
But when the Bishop says he's still worried at presidential level, you're saying not quite. So for you, regardless of who makes president, do you see a safety in the numbers of the people that are up there, that they have embraced the new disposition?
Oh, well, of course, the truth for the matter is, like I've said it many times, I think the people who have not understood the shift that has taken place in this country the most are the politicians. Those people seeking public office, because they are still stuck up in the old system that, you know, my tribe, my region, my this. And this is why the political formations in this country, which is also one of the reasons for this anxiety, has been based on regions and ethnicity. That's a fact. We must admit it. We can only pretend, you know. So the mobilization has been around ethnicity and region. Now, what does that say? It says something about our national psyche. I think there's a level of mediocrity that we have in this country as a people that we just don't want to accept. Tuna ujinga mingi sana as people.
Ekuru, you're lucky you're not standing up for any election.
No, I'm saying I won't be able to protect. But let's be honest.
I'm only allowing you that for the direct translation of the word.
And part of that problem is this. Why do I sit back and say that if we have a Turkana president, he will necessarily put food on my table? Why? It's a level of idiocy we have as a people and as a country. And you know, I think this is part of the problem in this country. You know, last year I had the occasion to visit Thailand, and you know, people are excited about Thika Superhighway. In Bangkok, they talk of elevated highways. They raise a road just in the middle of Bangkok, and they take it 100 kilometers outside Bangkok. So I asked these people, how did you guys come to develop your country in this way? And you know what they said? The first thing they did, they decided to feed their people. Once you feed the people, you have a healthy nation, you have a working nation. But what do we do in Kenya? Nataka Louis Otieno akwe rais because he comes from Luo Nyanza, because he's my tribesman, because he speaks my language. When at the end of the day, Louis Otieno will not put food on your table. Never. And like people have accepted, even when people are appointed as PSs, ministers, I mean, come on. They'll probably take care of the immediate family, and if they are sufficiently philanthropic, they'll probably take care of the extended family.
That is what brings me to the worry about what will happen from the pronouncements at Boma. So if we were to help Isaac, what else can he say? I mean, haltingly, he had to bite the bullet. What can Isaac say to give people that he's almost, as some of you are saying, he's overdrawn his capital of goodwill and capital of trust? But we don't want bombers. The reason we're having this discussion, we don't want bombers to be a trigger. Yeah. But we can see how we were set up for it to be a trigger, with the same leaders who are now teaching Kenyans, it is only fair if I win. If I don't win, there's a problem. So we're not saying it is okay to lose. How do we help Isaac in his position? What can he say different? What can he say more?
Yeah, I think, Louis, there's a lot of groundwork that has basically been done by civil society groups, religious groups. If you recall, one of our prophet, Oduor, did make these candidates sign certain agreement that, of course, they were going to conduct their campaigns peacefully and as well be ready to concede defeat. Yeah. And I think that has also happened within many other civil society groups. And also given the fact that even the candidates themselves have come out clearly stating in no uncertain terms that they're willing to basically concede defeat if that comes. But you know, that should also translate to educating the public to basically come to terms with basically with the results. And so they need to basically prepare the public to tell them if this election does not go away, then we should basically be ready to give it a stab next time. And so it's not about life and death. I think that preparation, Louis, for me is critical. But I'm really happy also by the very fact that the chairman has basically cooled the tempo. I think our expectations has been so high. And I'm only worried that, you know, Kenyans may not really go back to work. You know, we have a very political mind. I've been driving along the highway and there are no vehicles. It would appear everybody is basically watching the side to basically find out what is happening. So I want to believe that business may stall until whichever time Yusuf Hassan is going to be announcing elections officially.
Should that be?
Yeah, what I would say is
that's a very sad prospect.
Yeah, but I think the only way we can help Ahmed Isaac and the Commission is to give them all necessary support that he needs right now. I think what Ahmed Isaac has come out to say, listen, I want to get this right. You know, I'm still within the constitutional time frame. Give me support. I want to make sure that I get this correct so that the country does not burn. And what Kenyans can do for Ahmed Isaac and the Commission, but also for our own self, is that please let's remember where we came from. You know, Louis, one of the problems in our country is that we suffer from a very chronic culture of short memory. It's very cancerous, this disease of short memory. We forget too soon where we came from. So as part of this anxiety really should be calmed down. I mean, the fellow has come out to say, listen, I think we are having challenges. We are trying to fix it. So what we can do for Ahmed Isaac is support him to fix this problem. And so long as he carries us along how he is fixing the problem, so long as we know what he is doing, what are his next steps, so long as there is full disclosure, accountability, I think we need to give him support. Otherwise, you know, we are now worried about people not driving on the highway, but when it starts burning, we start looking at the refrigerators and wondering whether we have enough supplies. And we realize that
a lot of the places are all shopped out. But here's my other concern. We are saying if there's an understanding towards what Isaac is doing, give him the benefit of space. But the same power, that which we are arguing and telling him he should have made better use of, to the extent, in fact, he had to even issue a disclaimer for Safaricom because people were looking for any target. When there was a bit of a squeak that Safaricom was a culprit, people jumped on them until they said, this has nothing to do with us. But here it is, that same technology, what the Kenyans are doing, Kenyans are now escalating adverse comments on social media. And I just wonder, to what extent is CCK able to help? Can't they just pull the plug on that? Do we have to wait until we've gathered all these messages? I mean, I'm speaking as the vice chair of NCIC, the cohesion team, and that is their biggest worry now, the things that they're looking at on social media. Is there another Kenya? Do these people belong to another Kenya? So if they start getting us so upset, what does that mean? But can we agitate for CCK to do anything, or we just have to suffer this? Those messages are getting uglier by the minute.
I think for me, the tension was perhaps left a little too long, because if the explanations like what we had today, this evening, had come a little earlier, it could have helped. And I believe that as Kenyans, having heard the chairman come out, explain to us where we are, what the challenges there are, I think we should just go back, rest, and give this thing time. Those of us who need to go to work, those of us who, of course, school is still until next week, which is good in any case. So let's get back to work, let's get back to doing what we ought to do. And being a clergy person, I would also say, let's remember that ultimately it is God who will determine who is going to be the leader of this country. We cast our vote, but it is God who ultimately decides. So let's go back to that God and let's pray that he gives us the person. That should give us a sense of relax, so that we are not overly anxious. Ultimately, when the results are announced, and you find that, yes, your leader has won, like we have said, what next? You still have to go back to work and earn your little salary so that you can put food on your table. There will be nobody who will now come to you because you voted for me and I have won. Now here is ugali that you can eat. So let's be sober, I think, as Kenyans, to realize and to remember that voting is an event that takes place one time, like we did. The results may have taken a little longer, but life is going to continue well beyond after the election.
But why do we feel the need to take a swipe at if somebody is losing? And that's what they're doing now. They want to rub it in. And this is now getting people agitated. And they're taking the trend where your people have lost because of ABCD, and people are winning because of ABCD.
Because we have made elections, like again, you know, we have made elections, like you said earlier. It's like there's a football match between Harambee Stars and the visiting team.
Except that whenever we lose, we are okay. Yeah, we just make noise on FM radio, and then tomorrow we'll report.
I wanted to say this. Yes. There is only one body or one organ today in this country that is mandated to manage our elections, and that is the IEBC.
Right.
I think what should happen is, once the IEBC has come out into the open to explain what the challenges they have is, unless we are saying whatever the explanation is unreasonable or it doesn't sync well with us. But I think so long as the explanations are reasonable, I think we should give them the benefit of space and time. I mean, we should do that. I think people are now fueling this kind of, I don't think they love this country.
That's what I'm saying. Which Kenya
and in my view, we should now say to Kibunjia, the National Commission on Integration, and the police and everybody else, I think now the antennas should be high up. If there's anybody out there who is instigating violence, who is being unreasonable, who is using social media, I think it's about time they face the law. Otherwise, we still need this country intact. If this country starts burning because of carelessness and reckless, emailing and tweeting and all those kind of things, I think then those are the people that we really must rein on. But otherwise, I think we must say, are we happy with the explanation given by the Commission? If we are not happy with it, and by the way, and at the end of the day, if the Commission makes pronouncements that maybe we are not happy with, we have the courts of law to resolve whatever dispute. And I think I will say, let's wait until this. If they exhaust their constitutional time frame, then we have reason to probably even go to court and say, okay, I think the IEBC has made an error in law or has infringed the Constitution. But before that, I think it's carelessness, it's reckless. And let's not forget, you know, Kenyans, we like to be so pretentious. I'm sure many of them will go Sunday to speak to Bishop.
Bishop is right next to you there.
after all they have done. Yes. I think it's very important that we just stay calm, because at the end of the day, we need to look at the totality of all issues. And on a balance of proportionality, we say, okay, what is best for us right now as a people? as a country. And the best thing is to say, okay, you know what, IBC, we are watching you. If their explanation, for me, I'm only concerned about their explanation. If their explanations are not satisfactory, then we have reason for alarm.
I wish that that social media effort would go towards defending this country from international press, which is taken to adverse comments. So I would have choice words to use on this lady who I saw, but I am on national television. But people were just queuing to vote. And she stands there and says, look at the confusion that Kenyans have. So I don't know if he was supposed to stand upside down on the queue for her to figure out we know what we're doing, because people were actually standing in line, but there were many lines. There's anxiety. So maybe if we start to redirect some of this excess energies and start protecting our country from this kind of adverse discussions, then maybe we can channel ourselves properly, because instead of looking for a target, I don't know why we must always look for a target in this country. Why can't we just set this one out? Let Isaac do his job. Why this whole effort to target people? Which is why I'm worried your conversations are slipping through the cracks. Those 47 you're talking about, next week we'll be talking about who are these people? How do they get there? What is the quality of these leaders? What happens then?
That's a whole different discussion. But I would like to bring it back to the social media. And I happen to be in one of them with some of my grandchildren. And you could easily see people complaining that how come IBC is not giving us information, and using abusive language, you know. And I literally had to just key in and say, look, give them time. They have this much time, and you should be one of those responsible enough to tell others to keep calm. And at the end of the day, this country belongs to all of us. We don't have any other country. Each and every one of us is responsible to maintain peace, whether we like it or not. It's not about bringing the armed forces. The good bishop said we can pray. Yes, let's all pray, but at the same time, each and every one of us is responsible to make sure that this country remains peaceful and we go through the next transition. Now, once Ahmed Isaac is done with his job, as Ekuru said, then we can talk about, are we going to see the judiciary here? Are we going to court? And let's go to court. If you have an issue, let's go to court. But we cannot be the ones trying to vilify somebody, a tribe, or where will we run to, Louis? We cannot go to Tanzania, neither can we go to Uganda. We just have Kenya. So actually every Kenyan is responsible here. Anything that happens, we are responsible, nobody else. CNN can talk about anything they want, but it's up to us to show the world that we maintain peace.
Magut, what's your take?
Yeah, you know, my take, Louis, is first, you know, we have to ask ourselves, what is our value system, you know, as a country? You know, if you come to think about it, things to do with patriotism, how do you relate yourself? You know, when you hear individuals referring themselves as not, you know, sufficiently patriotic, and these are Kenyan, I mean, you really, you know, feel disgusted, if that is the word. So our value system is not so ingrained within our national psyche, and we don't really know what we're going to do to basically make sure that at least we have, you know, a pretense of, you know, being identified with your own country.
Okay, Margaret, I'll come back to you on that very important discussion, because we are the people, recipients of this social media, participants, and we need to take a position on that. The conversation will continue. I'm speaking to Magut, I'm speaking to Ekuro, I've got Bishop again, and I've got Maimuna here, and we're just trying to say we want to be responsible at this time, as frustrated as we are, but we have a country to hold and to hold at peace. We will see you after. Thank you, Linda. Back to the discussion we're having. We just want to wrap up this end of the discussion, and a lot of it was targeting the situation at Bomas and targeting our responsibility as a citizen of this country. What do we do now in this point in time? So, ladies and gentlemen, as we close our session, if I start with you, Bishop, anxiety, apprehension, but we are responsible. The law is in place. What would you tell Kenyans now?
I think it's the same thing we have been saying, that at least now a clear explanation has been given as to what the situation is at the tallying center, what is going to be done. Let's give it time. Let's await the results and simply accept that and move on with our lives, because ultimately we are responsible for our destiny. The people that are still in the IDP camps have been there for 5 years. Nobody cares about them. When we end up in the same place, nobody is going to care about us. These people are going to pick up and move on with their lives. So we, the ordinary people who will rise up and fight, are the ones who are going to end up in a situation where we cannot help ourselves. So I would say, let's give the team that has been charged with the responsibility of managing the elections the opportunity to do so. Let's get to a place where we accept that and then move on as Kenyans. There are elections that we have held in this country before, and even the results come and people are going about their business, are going about their duties. This idea of hyping elections to the level where we are fighting one another, I think has to be reversed.
What about the adversity we are seeing on social media now?
The social media, I think, is a place where, in my view, is being abused. We are misusing a space where we could actually encourage peace, understanding, cohesion, and we are using that to say things that we know we could not say face to face with other people. And some of the people who are talking these things, you don't even know who the other person is, and you are exchanging some very strong words with these people. You don't know who this person is. You could actually end up in the wrong hands. So let's be careful. Let us be patriotic. Let's help this country to move to where it ought to go. When this nation develops, we are going to be the beneficiaries.
Maimuna, what would you say in closing regarding the situation at Bomas and the reaction we're getting from Kenyans?
I think we are at a critical moment in our history. Kenya is going to go through a transition, and it's the responsibility of every Kenyan to make sure that they maintain peace. As Bishop has said, you never know who's on the other side in a laptop trying to send the worst messages. As Kenyans, I think we should come out in large numbers and say, and share the word of peace, because this is our country. We have no other country. Whatever decision we make, it is our country. We should maintain peace.
Right. But good, even as we talk about social media, we are then also challenged by negativity from sections of international press, picking on us in areas where we are trying to do the right thing, and for them, they're perpetually looking for adversity, perpetually looking for trouble where it doesn't show.
You know, sometimes I tend to agree with Moy, when he used to say that, the West or the Mzungu will never be happy. Even Africa really wants to chart his own destiny. And so, you see, you would really wonder why they paint Kenya negatively, including the fact that they had to, use a story that even yellow journalism actually would not use it. They would kill it.
Let me come back to you. And just put up the stand with the microphone. But in the media, I'll come back to you, Margaret, to finish on that. What about you, Ekuru? Same reaction. Tell me about what you feel about the kind of stories some of the international media have picked.
For me, I think, first of all, it's cheap journalism at the very least. And I think for me, for example, the story that we saw run in Al Jazeera that says that there's total confusion when people are queuing. Anywhere in the world, the last American election, I watched it. And I think queues were still long. Nobody bothered to describe that as confusion. I think that the international media needs to get its act together. And I think it's about time they realize that Kenya and indeed Africa is making strides in the right direction. And therefore, this kind of picking the negativities about us is really, for me, disgusting to say the very least. And I think it's just a portrayal of how unschooled some of them are, because they still think that Africa is in the backyard of how we do things. As a matter of fact, I think there are many things that we do in Africa that are much better than in the West. And the truth be told, Africa right now is almost the land of destination. We are witnessing reverse migration in Africa. So I think it's uncalled for. It's very responsible from an international media house like Al Jazeera. And I think if they're looking for any sensational things, I think they will be happy if they start seeing people holding machetes, cutting at each other. And I think for me, this is a lesson for us as Kenyans, as Africans. We should say, no, let's not give people the excuse to use us as guinea pigs to study instances of primitivity.
And for the conversations going on social media?
Yeah, I would say to people, Kenyans who are using the social media, shame on you. I think this is a time that we need to hold together as a country. Let's not forget where we come from. It's reckless, it's responsible, and I really hope the law enforcers can move in with speed and actually arrest some of them, because it's possible to track the people who are spreading hate speech. There is already a law in this country that prohibits that. And really, there is no reason right now to spread any hate speech. We cast our vote. We've already voted. Let's now leave it to the electoral management body to count those votes and give us the final tally. I think it's shameful. I think it's about time that we be proud of ourselves, our destiny, and this requires all of us to shape it together. We cannot shape it if we're going tangentially.
Sorry I interrupted you, Magut. I think I hope to be able to catch you now. You were making a comment on basically there's two issues. Just the kind of reactions we're getting, both ourselves on social media and those who are looking at us, enjoying all our facilities, putting up in our hotels and trying to portray Kenya as a war zone, an area of adversity.
I think these folks need to be schooled in history, if you ask me. If we are to use an example of the so-called settled democracies, such as Britain, for instance, which came into being in 1066, that is well over 940 years since the foundation of British statehood. But you know, they took the better part of state formation, basically twigging and retwigging its systems, and they've had to fine-tune and refine-tune it, including the fact that they have to be reminded that kings were slaughtered, others were deposed, and all that. And same thing applies to America, having been founded in 1776. It took about 80, almost 100 years for America to properly find its proper footing until 1865, with of course the defeat of southern slave states.
North and South War.
So I think some of these folks have to be schooled, and that a state that is barely 50 years cannot really, if in terms of statehood, we're more or less like toddlers. But we cannot afford actually to walk. We don't really have to walk 100, 200 years to do what we can. We need to crunch time,
right,
and achieve what we can within, within our lifespan. Actually, for some of us here. But having talked also of the social media, I think it's a platform that we need it, and as Bishop has mentioned, we don't really have the luxury of abusing it. Otherwise, a platform that we can use it as for information purposes, as an agent of democracy, as an agent of development. These are some of the things that we have to educate our young folks to really use this platform positively as opposed to negatively.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Magut. Thank you, Ekuro and Bishop Oginde. And Muna, thank you very much for taking time to be with us to share in your discussions. We would say so many things about what would go on at Bomas. We're just calling upon you as a Kenyan. Take your responsible place to protect our country, protect ourselves, protect our family by doing the right thing. Now we'll wait on the law which we have supported and championed. We cannot deviate from it. So let us be patriotic, especially at this point in time, and let's be the responsible citizen. And that is what KTN will continue to portray for you. Even in this choice of 2013, we will give you the discussions that allow you to champion your place as a true and patriotic Kenyan citizen. Over to you, Ann Kiguta. Let's proceed with the numbers of the day. It will be a long night, and tomorrow night